Then you go to strength training. You're like, I don't want to focus on that. The charlatan goes, don't worry about it. I'm going to take care of it. I have all of the answers in here. All these guys, they're just going to continue to grow in fame and notoriety. And I don't know what's going to happen to regular strength training modalities. We treat the power clean, we treat the snatch or variations of the snatch or the jerk or anything with a barbell, dumbbell, regular things. We treat them like they're poison, like it's going to ruin an athlete, or they're so complex that it's not going to help the athlete in the way that a box jump will or whatever. And I think that is the message that I'm continuously pushing against. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite parts of the charlatan playbook as it pertains to strength and conditioning, and that is weaponized specificity. It's a term that I came up with because part of the charlatan playbook is making sure that your position as the charlatan is offensive, right? It's not just defending your own position, letting things come to you. In order to be an absolutist, in order to be a charlatan, you must go out and attack other people. And so when we look at this in the strength and conditioning world, a guy that comes to my mind that I've been talking about for a long, long time is someone like Joel Seedman. There's some guys like Goda. There's guys, all over the industry. And I recently saw another video here from some woman who almost all of her training seems like it's this sport-specific training, but it's very gimmicky in nature. So as you can see, just kind of ridiculous things, absolutely crazy. Like there is some mechanism here happening. There are things happening that are of decent value. But again, if we look through other posts of hers, you'll see very similar things. Yeah, so bouncing on the trampoline into a one-leg thing and then these weird sissy squat stretches on the Bosu ball, incredibly dangerous. Okay, you get the idea. It doesn't really say much about what this person does, what their whole shtick is, but 294,000 followers. And right here in there, it says training programs and coaching as well. The thesis behind a lot of these people is that general strength training it's damaging because it's not specific. And that's crazy, right? Because that'd be like me saying oh, this, a glass of water is liquid because it's not a solid. Okay. The very idea of training in a general manner was really put from, mind to paper by the Soviets, at least to my knowledge. And they realized that methods of training that can go outside of the specific methodology of the sport are very effective in just creating this robust, and they call it the organism, but this robust, full body, full kinetic chain that can produce forces in a necessary way that they may not or likely would not have been able to do had they just trained specifically. So we have a javelin thrower. They throw the javelin. They get bigger, over time. They just naturally, grow, get stronger just from aging and just from training. Now, in order to train the javelin specifically, you do drills. You do approaches. They have a ball that they throw. They do a lot of throws where they don't do a full approach. They do a lot of things specifically. But that's called practice. And you will make adaptations in practice. However, when you enter the gym, and let's say you start to do general strength training, the idea there is that we're creating something broader that we can then narrow down into that specific way. So a back squat, right? I show someone a back squat. Now, some people at Goda, for instance, or the people at Functional Patterns, they're going to see that and they're going to say, why is a javelin thrower doing a back squat? Because time exists, because progressive overload is a thing, because general physical preparedness is something that has worked and has been documented as working for a long, long period of time. So we take this general movement, the back squat, we can do higher volumes. We could let's do a goblet squat at sets of 20s, We then go into, we kind of bridge from that anatomical adaptation phase, which is usually like that first phase where you're just getting the person fit, used to moving their body. Then we go into more of a strength phase. The strength phase could last anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks. And then we would go into like a conversion to power phase. And that's where you would see jumps, running, explosive movement, but utilizing the new muscle that they gained from general physical preparedness. Because again, we have that javelin thrower. That's a very explosive movement, a very fluid movement. You're not going to be able to improve. You could, by the way, you could improve throwing how far you throw the javelin by improving your squat, right? But to be able to convert it to the best way possible, you have to manage a microcycle through all of those things that I had just talked about, and then convert that into throwing. That seems like it's not a very crazy thing to understand, but yet we see it over and over and over and over and over again. And I personally, I don't know how else to debate it. GOTA guys are going to call this reverse movement technology. It's not going to translate to your sport because what you're doing with your hips is pulling everything backwards. We need to be forward locomotive athletes. Like, I understand their whole thesis. In fact, there's parts of what they talk about with the foot and the kinetic chain and how it stems from the foot and the knee placement in a varus position rather than valgus. Like, I understand that. And a lot of their stuff is actually pretty interesting and you could implement. But to say that a simple squat is going to take away or cause injury, that's when it crosses the line. And that's when I go, hey, charlatan, you're crossing the line. I'm going to call you the fuck out, right? But we see this specificity, this weaponized specificity over and over again. And I have to continue to make videos like this because these sorts of things, they really stem from selling. They stem from making money. And then when people can make money and when they start to make money, their buy-in mentally on their methodology, it's like almost exponential. When you start making more money, the buy-in goes even higher than the amount of money that you made. You have to now double down, triple down, quadruple down on what you had said before. I had an opportunity to encounter Joel Seedman. And you guys can check that video out at the debate. And I was able to kind of walk him down into pointing out his flaw. And at a certain point, he just said, this is what I believe. And at that point, I kind of like threw my hands up. I go, okay, well, there you go. Fundamentally, you believe this thing. There's no really amount of evidence that could require you to change this thing. Again, this thing is arbitrary. It's arbitrary. It's totally specific to your own brain. And it really doesn't even have much to do with your own clients. And what I said with him was like, he told me this. He said, the deep squat. So first off, he said the deep squat is the most injurious thing in exercise science or in strength conditioning. That was his claim. And then he said, however, the air squat, the deep air squat, that's okay. Great. Okay. So now we have a line. Can I do 2 reps of an air squat? What is deep enough? If I'm safe with an air squat, can I hold 5 pounds in my hand just for some resistance? No, 5 pounds that's the line, right? If somebody is 300 pounds, do we factor that in? Like, what's the line? Because once you give me the absolute reasoning for something, you have to then give me the absolute line. And I'm the one, most of the people here are the ones sitting back saying, this could work, this could work. We have a plan set forth. We adapt, we change our plan. It's this ever-changing thing to make the athlete better. But the charlatan says, no, we're not guessing. We know. This is the plan. We're sticking to it. These are the rules. Weaponized specificity, like this video, guys. You guys can see more and more clips of this chick, doing crazy shit. But it's always going to be in the vein of, we are trying to be athletic. We are trying to be, something that is different than just being a meathead. And again, there's this false equivalency from that. Like, you see a jacked guy who's not very athletic doing deadlifts. or doing squats or doing a bench press. And then you say that guy would suck at throwing a javelin. Well, no shit, first off, but you just equated those movements to what he does. You equated those movements specifically to creating that type of an athlete, which is someone you're trying to look away from. I've noticed this in martial arts. This is rife in martial arts. People love in martial arts to talk about how strength training is like the worst thing you could do. Soccer is another one of these things, right? We have to be able to understand that the breadth of training, the ability to see a movement and say, can we get this athlete's movement, or can we get this athlete's capacity in this movement to be better? And then from there, can we convert that increased capacity into something specific, like kicking a soccer ball or throwing a javelin or whatever it is? Again, this is a concept that, like, I don't know, it's really not that difficult to understand. But I think if I'm going to play devil's advocate here, people who are so focused on one thing, it is something that they don't even want to go below the surface of, right? Strength training. Right? If you are so wrapped up in trying to hit a baseball and you're so wrapped up in it, then you go to strength training, you're like, I don't want to focus on that. It seems really confusing because there's got a lot of voices over here. The charlatan goes, don't worry about it. I'm going to take care of it. I have all of the answers in here. And the problem is, like, the charlatan's voice, it does stick out like a sore thumb. You know, all these guys, they're just going to continue to grow in fame and notoriety. And I don't know what's going to happen to regular strength training modalities. Like, we treat the power clean, we treat the snatch or variations of the snatch or the jerk or anything with a barbell, dumbbell, regular things. We treat them like they're poison, like it's going to ruin an athlete, or they're so complex that it's not going to help the athlete in the way that, like, you know, a box jump will or whatever. And I think that is the message that I'm continuously pushing against. Anyways, guys, I hope you liked the video. That's all I got for you today. I'll see you in the next one.